Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're diving into the world of big data, you're going to run into this concept called MapReduce.
Oh, yeah, you'll definitely hear about it.
It can seem a little intimidating at first, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that data, complex systems.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin?
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
But imagine a tool that could simplify all that, make big data processing almost, elegant.
That's what MapReduce is all about.
That's exactly what we're going to unpack today, how MapReduce takes this chaos of big data and makes it make sense.
It's a pretty ingenious system.
We're looking at an article from Continuous Improvement. It came out December 6, 2024, called MapReduce, a simplified approach to big data processing.
Great article. Really breaks it down well.
So let's dive in.
It does good.
What is MapReduce in a nutshell?
Well, at its core, it's actually a pretty simple idea.
Oh, I like simple.
You take these massive data processing tasks and break them down into just two basic steps.
Okay, I'm listening.
Map and reduce.
Map and reduce, got it.
And by focusing on these two actions, MapReduce lets developers write code that can handle crazy amounts of data.
Across tons of computers, right?
Exactly. And all without getting lost in the technical weeds.
I love a good analogy. Is it kind of like organizing a super messy room? First you sort everything into piles, clothes, books, gadgets that you're mapping. Then you put everything away neatly in its place.
Right. That's reducing.
So MapReduce is like having a system that knows how to delegate tasks efficiently across a whole team of computers.
You got it. It's all about dividing and conquering.
Okay, that makes sense, but I'm still curious about how it actually works in practice. How can a system handle so much data without crashing?
Well, the process is designed to be incredibly robust. Think of it this way. MapReduce takes your giant data set and divides it into smaller, more manageable chunks, like slices of a pie.
Okay, I like pie.
Then it sends those chunks to individual computers to work on.
So it's like an assembly line. Each worker gets a specific part to work on.
Exactly. Each worker applies your instructions to their chunk of data.
Okay, so it's divide and conquer, then put it all back together. But what happens if one of those worker computers crashes? Wouldn't that mess everything up?
That's where the magic of fault tolerance comes in. If a worker computer fails, MapReduce automatically reassigns its task to another available machine, like a backup singer ready to step in.
Oh, I see. So the show goes on.
Exactly. No data is lost, and the processing continues smoothly. It's designed to keep running no matter what.
Okay, that's super impressive. But let's get down to brass tacks. What can MapReduce actually do in the real world?
Well, that's the amazing part. It's incredibly versatile. It's not limited to just one specific type of task.
I remember the article mentioned some cool examples like word count programs, but not just like counting words in an essay, but on a massive scale, right?
Exactly. Think about analyzing a library's worth of books or even the entire internet to count how many times a specific word appears. MapReduce can handle that.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. And what about those super fast search engines we use every day? How do they find what we're looking for in milliseconds?
That's powered by MapReduce, too. It creates something called inverted indexes.
Inverted indexes. Basically, they're massive lookup tables that connect words to the documents where they appear. It's like having an index for the entire digital world.
So that's how they make those lightning-fast searches possible. Pretty slick.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. MapReduce is also used for weblog analysis.
Weblog analysis, you mean understanding how people use websites?
Exactly. Websites generate tons of data about what pages people visit, how long they stay, where they click, all that juicy stuff.
So it's like a detective for the internet, snooping around, figuring out user behavior.
You could say that. And this information is super valuable for website optimization, targeted marketing, you name it.
So we're talking about scalability, fault tolerance, versatility. What else makes MapReduce so special? What are its biggest advantages?
Well, first off, it's built to handle those huge data sets.
We're talking terabytes, petabytes, even more, right?
Exactly. It can distribute that data across thousands of computers, no sweat. That's scalability in action. And you mentioned earlier that it's surprisingly easy to use, even if you're not a coding wizard.
That's one of the things that made MapReduce so revolutionary. You don't need a PhD in computer science to harness its power.
That's awesome. So it's powerful, robust, user-friendly, but it can't be perfect, right? There's got to be a catch. What are some of its limitations?
Well, you're right. No tool is perfect. One limitation is that MapReduce is best suited for batch processing, meaning it works on large chunks of data at once. It's not ideal for real-time processing where you need instant results.
So it's like baking a cake.
Oh, yeah.
You got to wait for the whole thing to bake before you can enjoy it.
It's not like microwaving popcorn. Another potential issue is something called an I/O bottleneck.
I/O bottleneck, that sounds kind of scary.
It's basically when the process of reading and writing data to disk slows things down. It can happen with tasks that involve a lot of data shuffling.
Like having a super efficient kitchen but getting stuck waiting for the dishwasher to finish.
Perfect analogy. And finally, while MapReduce is incredibly versatile, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Some really complex algorithms, especially those involving lots of back-and-forth calculations, might require different tools.
So it's all about choosing the right tool for the right job.
Exactly. Knowing when to use MapReduce and when to consider other options.
But even with those limitations, it sounds like MapReduce has had a huge impact on the field of big data.
Oh, absolutely. It's not an exaggeration to say it revolutionized the way we process data. It paved the way for today's powerful frameworks like Apache Hadoop and Apache Spark.
So it's like MapReduce was the trailblazer, the one that showed everyone what was possible.
Exactly. And those frameworks are used by countless organizations all over the world.
It's amazing to think about how this one concept has changed the landscape of data processing.
Right. It's a real testament to its power and influence.
And it's not just about the specific technology. It's about the way of thinking that it inspired, right?
Absolutely. It fundamentally changed how we think about designing systems to handle those massive amounts of data.
So it's not just a tool, it's a whole philosophy of data processing.
You could say that. Its core ideas, breaking down complex tasks, handling failures gracefully, optimizing data flow, these have become essential principles in modern distributed computing.
So MapReduce is like the OG of big data processing.
You got it. It's the one that showed everyone how to handle those mountains of data.
Well, I'm starting to feel like I've got a good grasp on the what and the how of MapReduce.
That's great. Now the question is, how can you use these concepts in your own world? That's what we're going to explore next.
Okay, that's where I get really excited. Time to connect this powerful technology to our everyday lives.
Absolutely. Let's see how these principles can be applied to your own specific domain.
I'm ready to see how this all plays out.
Let's do it.
So we've got MapReduce figured out. It can handle huge amounts of data. But how does this actually apply to, me?
Well, that's the exciting part. We've talked about how MapReduce handles these massive data challenges in all these different areas.
Right.
But the real question is, how can those same principles be used in your specific area? What kind of data problems are you facing that MapReduce could help solve?
Yeah. Like imagine you're a scientist, right? With mountains of data from experiments, and you're trying to find those breakthroughs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Or maybe you're like a financial analyst. You're trying to track market trends, make those smart investment decisions based on tons of data.
And MapReduce could help them see those patterns that would just be impossible for a human to spot on their own.
Exactly. And it's not just about crunching numbers. It's about a whole new way of thinking about data processing.
Interesting.
It gives you the power to actually take control of all that data, make it work for you no matter what field you're in. But remember, it's not a magic bullet.
Right. We talked about the limitations earlier.
Yeah, it has limitations, and it's not the right solution for every single problem. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job, right?
Like you wouldn't use a hammer to fix a leaky faucet.
Exactly. So before you jump on the MapReduce train, it's important to think about what kind of data you're dealing with.
Okay, so what questions should we be asking ourselves?
Well, first, what kind of data are you dealing with? What are you hoping to learn from it? And what kind of resources do you have available?
That makes sense. It's about understanding your needs and your resources before you dive in.
Right. And even if MapReduce isn't the perfect fit for a specific problem, its principles can still be really useful.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. That emphasis on dividing and conquering complex problems, on optimizing data flow, and designing for fault tolerance, these are all really valuable lessons no matter what field you're in.
So even if you don't end up using MapReduce itself, you can still learn from its approach.
Exactly. It's like learning from a master chef, even if you're not cooking the same dish.
I like that analogy.
So as you keep exploring the world of big data, remember to keep MapReduce in your toolkit.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
It's a powerful tool that can help you make sense of even the most challenging data sets. But remember, it's just one tool among many. Be curious, keep exploring, and always keep learning.
I love this. Stay curious and keep learning. So let's talk about how someone can actually get started with MapReduce.
Okay, so one of the most popular platforms for running MapReduce jobs is Apache Hadoop.
I've definitely heard of Hadoop.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's an open source framework, so it's free to use.
What?
It gives you a way to store huge amounts of data across a bunch of computers and then run those MapReduce jobs on that data.
So it's like a one-stop shop for big data.
Pretty much. Hadoop's become the industry standard for big data processing. Everyone from small startups to those big tech companies are using it.
Makes sense. But it's not the only option out there, right?
Right. There are other frameworks like Apache Spark that offer similar stuff and might be better for some tasks.
So it's good to do your research, figure out what works best for your situation.
Exactly. And like with any new technology, there's going to be a learning curve with MapReduce, Hadoop, Spark, all of that.
Yeah, I imagine there's a bit of a learning curve.
But luckily, there are tons of resources to help you, online tutorials, courses, even whole online communities where you can connect with other MapReduce folks.
It's like joining a club for data enthusiasts.
Exactly. It really is a journey, continuous learning and discovery. And the more you learn, the more possibilities you'll find in your data. It can be a really empowering experience.
Empowering. I like that. So we've talked a lot about how MapReduce is used for data processing. But I want to pick your brain for a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
What if we could take these MapReduce principles and apply them to other areas, beyond just data?
That's a fantastic question. And the exciting thing is that MapReduce isn't just about crunching numbers.
Oh, interesting.
It's a framework for thinking about how to break down any complex problem, into smaller, more manageable pieces. That can apply to way more than just data processing.
Okay, I'm really intrigued now. I'm ready for part 3. Okay, so we've been talking about how powerful MapReduce is for data processing, but now I'm really curious about this idea of applying its principles beyond just data.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing when you start thinking about it that way.
You're like the king of connecting those seemingly unrelated ideas, so I gotta ask.
Let me think.
How could we use this MapReduce mindset in something like healthcare?
Okay, so imagine you're trying to develop a new treatment for some complex disease. You've got mountains of data, patient records, genetic information, results from clinical trials.
Great, overwhelming.
Totally. But if you apply that MapReduce approach, you can start by breaking down that data into smaller, more focused data sets.
Like creating a roadmap, mapping it out.
Exactly. You could map it by specific symptoms, genetic markers, or even how those patients responded to different treatments.
So instead of trying to analyze everything at once, you're creating these smaller, more targeted maps of the problem.
Exactly. And then, just like in MapReduce, you can use the reduce phase to combine and analyze those smaller data sets, looking for patterns and connections.
It's like taking a puzzle and sorting the pieces by color or shape, right? And suddenly it becomes much easier to see the bigger picture.
Right. And this could lead to, discovering new biomarkers, creating personalized treatment plans, even identifying new drug targets.
Wow, that's incredible. And this approach could be used in other fields too, right?
Absolutely. Think about education. What if we used MapReduce principles to analyze how students are performing?
So instead of teaching everyone the same way, you could personalize the learning experience.
Exactly. You could map the data by learning styles, socioeconomic factors, even individual strengths and weaknesses.
So it's about creating a learning path that's tailored to each student's needs. That's amazing.
And by analyzing those smaller data sets, educators could figure out how to create learning environments that are more effective and really help every student succeed.
It's like giving each student their own personalized roadmap to success.
Exactly. And how about urban planning? Could MapReduce help us design cities that are more efficient and sustainable?
Okay, I'm listening.
So cities are these complex systems with tons of data traffic patterns, energy consumption, pollution levels, population density. It's a lot.
Yeah, cities generate a crazy amount of data.
But with MapReduce, you could map all that data by location, time of day, specific events.
And then you could use that information to figure out where the problems are and how to fix them.
Exactly. You could optimize traffic flow, reduce energy consumption, make cities better places to live. It's like having a real-time dashboard for the city.
Wow, the possibilities are endless. So it seems like MapReduce is more than just a technology. It's a framework for tackling complex problems in any domain. It's about breaking things down, analyzing them systematically, and finding those insights that can lead to real solutions.
That's the beauty of it. And it's a skill set that's valuable no matter what field you're in.
So to all our listeners out there, we challenge you to think beyond those traditional uses of MapReduce.
Yeah, get creative.
Look around your world and see what complex problems are out there.
Think about how you could use those MapReduce principles to make a real difference in your own field.
It's all about pushing boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Finding new ways to apply those problem-solving skills.
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be working with data, and who knows what amazing things we can achieve with the right tools and the right mindset.
Well, I've got to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired. This deep dive into MapReduce has been eye-opening.
I'm glad to hear it. It's such a fascinating topic, and there's always more to learn.
So thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of MapReduce. We hope you learned something new and exciting along the way.
And we hope you continue to explore and experiment with these ideas. The possibilities are truly limitless.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next breakthrough application of MapReduce.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
And remember, knowledge is power, but applying that knowledge is transformative.